What would you do if you caught someone destroying your child's joy in broad daylight, with no remorse, only to discover they were hiding a deeper pain? In the quiet suburban enclave of Willow Creek, where manicured lawns and HOA rules reigned supreme, a single act of malice unraveled a community's facade, exposing raw truths about vengeance, forgiveness, and the shadows we all carry. This is the story of a mother, a son, a neighborhood tyrant, and a twist that left us all questioning what justice really means. My name is Sarah Gwynn, and I've lived in Willow Creek for 6 years. It's the kind of place where everyone knows your business, and the HOA enforces rules like their commandments. My son, Ethan, 12 years old and brimming with energy, found his freedom in the community park. His bike, a bright red Schwinn he'd saved up for by mowing lawns, was his pride and joy. Every afternoon, he'd race down to the park, weaving through the swings and slides, his laughter echoing like a melody. That park was his sanctuary until Karen Mitchell decided it wasn't. Karen was the HOA's self-appointed enforcer. 50-something, with a perm that hadn't evolved since the 80s and a glare that could curdle milk, she patrolled the neighborhood like a hawk. She'd fine you for a mailbox that leaned an inch too far left or a lawn with a single dandelion. Everyone tolerated her because nobody wanted to be her next target. But Ethan? He was just a kid, and kids don't play by HOA rulebooks. It started with small complaints. Karen would storm up to our porch, clutching her clipboard, ranting about Ethan's bike, cluttering the park. "It's a safety hazard," she'd snap, though the park was empty half the time. I'd nod, apologize, and move the bike, but Ethan's spirit dimmed each time. He didn't understand why this woman hated his happiness. Neither did I. One sweltering July afternoon, Ethan came home in tears, his bike limping on 2 flat tires. "Mom, someone slashed them," he sobbed, pointing to jagged gashes in the rubber. My heart sank. Who would do this to a child's bike? I hugged him tight, promising we'd get answers. That's when our neighbor, Jamal Carter, a quiet retiree who kept to himself, knocked on our door. "Sarah," he said, his voice low, "you need to see this." He held up his phone, showing grainy footage from his security camera pointed at the park. There she was, Karen, in her signature floral blouse, glancing around before pulling a kitchen knife from her purse. She knelt by Ethan's bike, her movements deliberate, almost gleeful, as she sliced into the tires. My blood boiled. This wasn't just petty. It was vicious. Ethan watched the footage, his small fists clenched. "Why, Mom? Why does she hate me?" I didn't have an answer, but I had a plan. The HOA meeting was that evening, and I wasn't about to let this slide. I copied Jamal's footage onto a USB drive and marched to the community center, Ethan trailing behind, still clutching his broken bike's handlebars. The room was packed, neighbors whispering, Karen sitting smugly at the front, her clipboard perched like a scepter. President Linda Hayes called the meeting to order, and I raised my hand. "I have evidence of vandalism," I said, my voice trembling with rage. Gasps rippled through the crowd as I plugged in the USB and played the footage on the projector. Karen's face appeared, unmistakable, as she mutilated Ethan's bike. The room erupted. "That's disgusting," shouted Maria Lopez, a single mom who'd clashed with Karen before. "She's gone too far," others chimed in. Karen's face drained of color, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. "Two was protecting the park," she stammered. "That bike was a danger." But her excuses fell flat. Linda, usually spineless, slammed her gavel. "Karen Mitchell, you're banned from the HOA effective immediately, and we're turning this over to the police." Cheers erupted, but Ethan tugged my sleeve, his eyes wide. "Mom, is she going to jail?" I didn't know, but the weight of her actions felt heavier than any punishment. That night I thought it was over. Karen was ostracized, the neighborhood rallied around Ethan, and a local shop even donated new tires. But something gnawed at me. Karen's desperation in that footage wasn't just malice. There was a frantic edge to her, like a cornered animal. I couldn't shake the feeling there was more to her story. A week later, the twist came. I was watering my garden when a stranger approached a young woman, maybe 30, with tired eyes and a hesitant smile. "Are you Sarah?" she asked. I nodded, wary. "I'm Emily, Karen's daughter." My stomach dropped. Karen had a daughter? Nobody in Willow Creek knew. Emily sat on my porch, her hands twisting nervously. "I saw the video online," she said. "Mom's not well. She hasn't been for years." Emily revealed a side of Karen we'd never seen. After her husband died in a car accident a decade ago, Karen spiraled into grief. The HOA became her obsession, a way to control a world that felt chaotic. But it went deeper. Emily's son, Karen's grandson, had died 2 years prior, hit by a car while riding his bike. "She sees him in every kid on a bike," Emily whispered, tears falling. "She didn't mean to hurt Ethan. She just breaks." My anger softened, replaced by a hollow ache. Karen wasn't a monster, she was broken, lashing out at a ghost. I thought of Ethan, how his bike represented freedom, and how for Karen, it symbolized loss. I wanted to hate her, but all I felt was pity. Emily begged me not to press charges, promising Karen was getting help. I agreed on the condition Karen apologized to Ethan. The apology came a month later. Karen stood on our doorstep, thinner, her eyes red-rimmed. "I'm sorry, Ethan," she said, her voice cracking. "I was wrong." Ethan, to my surprise, hugged her. "It's okay," he said. "I just want to ride my bike again." I watched, torn between relief and unease. Forgiveness felt right, but it didn't erase the damage. The neighborhood moved on. Ethan's laughter returned to the park, and Karen faded from sight, reportedly in therapy. But the story didn't end neatly. One evening, as I tucked Ethan into bed, he asked, "Mom, what if I'd done something bad? Would you still love me?" The question hit like a punch. Karen's pain, Emily's revelation, Ethan's innocent sight all swirled in my mind. We'd won justice, but at what cost? Karen's banishment didn't heal her, and Ethan's trust in the world was cracked, even if his tires were fixed. Willow Creek went back to its polished surface, but I couldn't unsee the fractures. Karen's act was cruel, but her pain was human. Ethan's joy was pure, but his questions now carried weight. And me? I realized justice isn't always a clean victory. Sometimes, it's a mirror, forcing you to face the messiness of compassion, the limits of forgiveness, and the truth that everyone carries scars, even the ones who hurt you. ND.